Excelcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Excelcast. I'm your host, Joe Parker, and today I have Samantha Weaver. Samantha Weaver and we go by, I call her Sam. Sam and I go back. We used to work at Twin Ponds together in the cafe portion of the pond. The ice rink, not the pond. But yeah, that's how we know each other. And Sam, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good. So your current mission in life is to go to PT school. So do you want to tell us a little bit about how that journey's been going for you recently?
Yes, so it's been a pretty long journey for me. Going into undergrad, I had absolutely zero clue what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to do health and fitness. I kind of switched around a little bit my major, so I went from kinesiology to communications, back to kinesiology. So by the end of my time at Penn State Harrisburg, I was kind of rushing to get all my classes in so I could graduate on time. And then I got the opportunity to play college softball for one more year at Lebanon Valley College. So I tried out for the team, decided to get my master's there, and I will be finishing my master's in sport performance in December. And I also just finished applying to PT school a couple weeks ago. So I got 3 more years on my plate, hopefully.
That's awesome. Why the switch to communications, though, from kinesiology? What made you
I
want
just
to
wanted
do
to try
that?
something a little different, I think, just because of the ambiguity of not knowing what I wanted to do with kinesiology. And early on in my schooling, I was like, nope, not doing more than 4 years. But now I keep coming back to school. So
What was that mindset switch, you think? What fostered that, like not like wanting to go to school and then from not wanting to go to school actually putting 3 more years on your plate?
I think when I was younger, I kind of just wanted to find like the fastest way possible of going through school, getting a job. But now I'm realizing I need to sit back and take the time to think about what I want to do, what goals I want to set for myself, and honestly, just enjoying the process a little bit more because when I was younger, I was so interested in rushing through this, rushing through that, getting this done, getting that done, with actually really thinking about what I wanted to do. And because I'm able bodied, I really want to use my abilities to apply in the world because at the end of the day, everybody needs PT. However, PT is not readily available for everyone. So I want to be a part of that cohort that kind of switches that around.
Okay, so would you be more accessible in what way? Like, what's your big idea with that?
I think a big idea for me. So originally going into PT, I was like, oh, sports PT. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, my mind is probably going to change. I am interested in pelvic health actually because the waits for pelvic health for women are just so long to the point that they usually can't get in. And I want to become a pelvic health PT to kind of mediate that gap that we have within women's health.
Okay, so you would like expedite the process of giving them access to like health?
If I could, that would be awesome. But I
Yeah.
think I just want to like kind of try and get into it first just because there aren't enough of them. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I got you. So your goal at the end of the day would be to open your own practice completely.
I don't know yet. I've thought about it,
Wait.
but I think for now I just want to try and focus on like specializing in that before anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And why did you specifically transfer to Lebanon Valley College?
So, I didn't necessarily like transfer, but my time at Penn State Harrisburg was over. I had graduated in 2022, and they
Mm.
don't really have any masters for me there that relates to kinesiology. So Lebanon Valley was right down the road, and I'm like, well, I only had a couple years of softball under my belt because of COVID, or college softball under my belt because of COVID. So I just wanted to take a risk and try and do it again, which I did, and get my master's, make me more marketable, hopefully, to get into PT school.
How was it navigating COVID with being a kinesiology major? because there's a lot of classes that you can take online, take over Zoom that don't really require you to be in person, but I feel like that degree specifically requires a lot of in-person activity.
Yeah, it was hard. I was actually switching back into kinesiology when this was all going on. So I was switching from communications to kinesiology when COVID was going on. And it was a really hard switch because I had some hands on classes that I couldn't do hands on. Like we had functional anatomy over Zoom, and there's supposed to be like a lab with that, and there really wasn't.
Mm.
So it's foundational stuff like that that I almost kind of missed out on. Now I'm getting more into those classes that I did miss out on that were more hands on. But at that time, it was like Zoom, 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 Zoom. And I'm like, wow, this kind of sucks. I'm not really getting out of what I thought I'd get out of my education.
Yeah, because you're almost not even practicing what they're preaching because you're just sitting at a desk rather than actually moving around and
Yeah,
being able to help an actual client. I feel like at that point, those classes are pretty much mute because labs are a big part of the practical work that you would do as a physical therapist.
right.
So, do you think there's a better way they could have navigated that situation?
At the end of the day, I don't really know, just because it was important that for that time being, at least, that we were practicing safety precautions that we needed to practice to protect ourselves and to protect other people. So, in a way, I do think they navigated it the way that they should have. I mean, they did return to classes, like in person classes, a little sooner than other schools around us, or at least some of them. Um, Honestly, I don't really know how else they would have mediated that with what we had going on at the moment.
Mhm. Did they have any cool things like online games where you did anatomy or anything like that, where you had to like match things up?
Not really. That if we wanted to do stuff like that, we were kind of on our own.
Mm,
Because at the end of the day, like these professors too, they were trying their best. Like I don't
yeah.
think they ever thought like, oh, we're gonna be in a pandemic in a couple years. Let me like plan this. So like, no one knew what they were doing. So, but they did a really good job mediating it. I thought they were all most of them were really accessible during the time if we had any questions. And like, I remember getting COVID. Probably a year after it really started to boom. And I remember I put myself in like an isolation room, and I was still doing like my Zoom classes though, and all my teachers were like, "Oh my gosh, if you need anything, like let us know." So they were really accommodating and really accessible during that time.
Yeah, because it's an unprecedented time. We in our generation specifically, we've never really witnessed anything like that. I mean, we had the
Right.
swine flu back a little bit ago, but
No one remembers anything about that. Like,
yeah,
I know I don't. I just had to get a shot and then
yeah,
yeah.
that's it. It's but yeah, the whole world or a whole yeah, I would assume a whole world shutdown. That's
Yeah.
never really happened before. So to be able to navigate that, you have to be really accommodating to other people because other people also don't know how to navigate what's going on. What's one thing that you did to really help you navigate and be calm and keep your composure through that time?
So for me, it was practicing softball and finding any way I could to stay active because when everything had shut down, we had just gotten in maybe 8 games down in South Carolina when I was on Penn State Harrisburg's softball team. And I didn't know what else to do with myself other than go to the field, hit off of the tee, go for a run, do body weight workouts at home because I had no weights. Um, until the gyms opened back up. But for me, it was just staying active was what kept me sane. Because at the end of the day, I was sitting in front of a computer all day, seeing my professors and my classmates through a screen if they had their videos on. A lot of people, it was just such a time where we were so removed from everything that was the most disconnect I think I've ever felt in my life. But yeah, physical activity was how I kept myself sane and in things that time.
Yeah, physical activity plays a huge role in maintaining your mental health, especially through a situation like that. But overall, I think people don't really realize the effects that just 30 minutes a day of exercise can help. Now, obviously, if you have a goal or you play a sport, you're definitely going to be working out more than 30 minutes a day. But
Right.
for the average person, it's necessary.
Right. I agree. It is.
Have you in your classes, have they said specifically what works best for people who aren't an athlete or aren't training? Is it cardio? Is it lifting? Has there been any indication for you guys?
It's really a mix of things because, different forms of exercise have different health benefits. Like for women, for example, um, strength training helps prevent osteoporosis later in life. Um, or keeping up with your cardiovascular health decreases your risk of cardiovascular disease. It's really a mixture of things that um, are good for people. And at the end of the day, too, I think what people fail to realize about exercise is that they have to do some. Can I swear?
You can.
Okay. Um, People think they have to do some crazy shit to, get fit and stay fit. Really, you just have to find something that you enjoy doing because at the end of the day, when you find something that you enjoy doing, that is better than absolutely nothing. So, but really, it's a mixture of different types of exercise that's good and beneficial for anybody.
Yeah. I think that that message wasn't relayed to me personally properly. I think it was, well, you have to do cardio because cardio is the best thing for you.
Right.
That's it. And I realized through my journey that strength training plays just as big a role as cardio does. If you strength
It
train
does.
at the same level that you do cardio at and your heart rate's the same, you're burning the same amount of calories, but you're also getting a workout in that's building muscle mass,
Right.
which then in turn raises your basal metabolic rate and helps you burn more calories when you're not working out. So
Right.
I think that education in this field is definitely something that needs to be improved. And what made you want to specifically focus on the women's aspect of health?
I think there's a lot of gaps in women's health, PT being one of them. Um, for me, it's just a matter too of trying to provide that as a woman myself, because at the end of the day, I might need it one day, and it might not be available to me, and I want to be a part of that group of people that is kind of like getting together to work hard to do this and provide to fill that gap, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you
Because
want
there's
to be
not
a
enough
part of
people
the
that. Sorry, go ahead.
you want to be a part of that change. You want to be a part of a
Yeah.
new organization, or not necessarily an organization, but a group of people that they're looking to bring a new perspective when it comes to how expedient a process should be and the
Mhm.
availability of certain resources should be to a group of people.
Yeah, there's not enough people that want to do it. And at the end of the day, too, who knows? Once I get into PT and I get into clinicals, or PT school and I get into clinicals, I might find something else that I enjoy. But at the end of the day, I think no matter what I do, I'm going to help fill some kind of health providing gap that there is because there's a lot of them.
Yeah, specifically, what are some things that you've noticed other than just women's health, there being a gap there? What are some other gaps in the health and medical field that you've noticed throughout your college career?
Throughout my college career, I think I've noticed that there's not a lot of diversity within providers at times, and also the accessibility just all around isn't always the best. Like for me, um, it took me a while. I still haven't really found a PCP that I really enjoy being with the same person. And I have PCOS. And the first thing that they did when they saw that I had cysts was, okay, put her on birth control. Didn't try anything else, didn't really have any like advice on lifestyle changes, on what it even is. And their quick fix was to just give me something um, in pill form. And looking back on that, I kind of wish maybe I had like a second opinion. Um, but I feel like, I don't know if this is necessarily a gap, but what I've noticed is that doctors are so quick to just prescribe medication. And instead of trying something such as physical therapy or working out or lifestyle change, diet change, like their first thing to do is just say, "Oh, let's put you on medication for this." And there's better ways to go about it, I think, before resorting to medication.
I think that may be a root cause of a lot of medical practices. And the root of that is that there's a generally accepted practice, right? If you see something wrong with someone and you know that there's a medication that generally accepted, it solves the problem, or not even solves the problem, but provides a fix for the problem, you are less liable if you say, hey, this right here will help you, because it's generally accepted that that is supposed to help that person. Whereas if they said, hey, do this kind of out of the box thing that historically and biologically has been proven, but it's not a generally accepted practice. Like if someone came to you and said, "Oh, like these 6 vitamins, if you take these, it should help you with your
Right,
PCOS." But that's not a generally accepted practice because that's not a medication that a doctor would prescribe. So if you take those medications and it doesn't work because your body's different, they could be held liable for that. Whereas with a generally accepted practice, they can't
right,
really be held liable because that is what their book says fixes the certain problem.
right.
So I think that, and there's people that will sue a doctor if the doctor gives a suggestion and the suggestion doesn't work out in that person's favor.
Yeah,
And I think that it's a fear of losing your practice, losing your livelihood, that they just kind of go, okay, like here's medication, take the medication, and if it doesn't work, maybe you try something else, but this is
yeah,
my recommendation for right now. So
right.
do you think it's more of a understanding? Like, do you feel like most doctors understand that diet and exercise and, if you change these things around, add these vitamins into your diet, it'll help? Do you think it's a lack of understanding with that? Or do you think it's what I had just mentioned, like a fear of money, like a fear of losing money?
I think it can be a little bit of both.
Mm.
Um, I think definitely a big part of it is the fear of losing money, but then also like some doctors are so like to the book in a way. So like for example, a couple years ago, I had reached the heaviest weight that I was. I think I was like 170. And that was just after a really stressful half year. Um, I had 7 classes. I was dealing with a lot of loss. I was dealing with a softball season. I was trying to graduate. I was trying to keep up with my grades. And I went a little bit out of control with my eating, but also when you're more stressed, cortisol levels are higher. And it was just a mix of different things. By the end of the spring, when I saw my doctor, she categorized me as obese. And for me, when I heard that, I was like, oh shit, I'm considered obese now. But at the same time, I wasn't necessarily out of shape. I was still deadlifting 300 pounds. Um, I could still, keep my walking heart rate lower when I'm going on a walk to exercise. Um, I was still in shape, but because of some of these doctors, they're just so to the book with like BMI. Okay, well, what if I am 170 pounds of more muscle mass than I am body fat? And for me, like, I think it's just, or for doctors, sometimes I think it's just a lack of understanding. BMI, I really don't rely on it at all, if I'm going to be honest. Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, all it takes into consideration is, I think, your height, your weight, your age, and your gender or your sex. And, you know, that doesn't factor in enough of what is in your body. You have bones, you have water mass, you have fat mass, you have muscle mass. Um, and, it's a lack of understanding for a lot of things when it comes to like prescribing and telling people things, if they're obese or, you know.
Yeah, I feel like they should have one of those 360 scanners that Crunch has. Have you ever been to Crunch Fitness?
Yeah,
It tells
I
you the
started working there over COVID and I still go there. And when I worked there, I used that thing like once a week, I think. That thing's pretty awesome.
yeah. What all does it offer? The 360 body scan.
From what I remember, it kind of gives you like a rough sketch of quite literally like your body shape. Um, it can give you like the circumference of, like, let's say your upper arm, or like, where like your upper leg, where your quads and your hamstrings are, your waist. Like, it gives you those measurements, circumference wise, but also it tells you um, your body weight and everything that kind of like factors into that.
Okay. Does it give you that muscle, water, fat
Yeah.
breakdown? Oh, okay.
I can't remember the water. I know it does the fat and the muscle. I can't remember the water. It's been a while since I've done it, but there are some machines out there that can tell you like intracellular water from extracellular water. Even, like, it's crazy what they have.
Yeah, I have a scale right now. It was $20, so I'm really not sure how accurate it is, but it tells me like the fat content, my protein percent in my body, water content in my body, weight, BMI, body mass. Well, not body mass, body fat percentage.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah. So I have
I
that, but it was $20. So like,
yeah
I know some of those machines are thousands of dollars. So I don't know how it's telling me all of that exactly. How $1,000 machine would do as well.
yeah. It depends, honestly. Like, a scale like that, I have the same one probably. Actually, it does give you like a good idea, but also it's a little bit like compartmental in the sense that like there's like handheld ones, but then at the end of the day, that's kind of only measuring like what's like up here, like when you're holding it. And it's kind of the same thing with a scale like that, is that when you're standing on it, it's more of like your lower body than like whole body. But at the same time, it's still like a really good idea of what everything actually is. So it's not like inaccurate. It's just a little less, I guess, than what people think it is. But it's still like a great way to get those measurements, to see kind of like an idea of what you are in those measurements.
Yeah, I noticed that whenever I was using it, and if my weight went up, my body fat automatically went up, or my muscle mass
Yeah.
automatically went up. It just kind of flowed with the weight itself. It was never my body composition was changing, even though
Right.
I saw physical results of my body
Yeah. They're
complex
not the best,
change.
but it's something.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I it was $20, so how you can't really expect much out of
Yeah.
it.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so you said that you went through when you gained a lot of weight, you're taking 7 classes, you suffered some loss. How did you persevere through that time in your life?
Oh, I don't know, honestly. If I would have to go through something like that again, at the end of the day, I know I could, but oh my god, it was so hard. But I remember during one of my earlier classes in kinesiology at Penn State Harrisburg, I had an amazing professor. Her name was Dr. Candace Hogue. Shout out to Candace. I looked up to her as, like, I still look up to her as a mentor. She was my advisor, and she taught amazing sports psychology classes. And one thing that stuck out to me the most, I want to say it probably stuck out to me the most through anything else I've learned, is having and maintaining resilience. Because at the end of the day, in order to get to where you want to go and to keep pushing to get to that end goal, you got to stay resilient.
Yeah. And that was that semester too that you learned that from her?
No, I think it was like a year or a year and a half before, I want to say.
Okay. So you kind of channeled that in when you came up against those 7 classes and medical classes too. I know medical classes are hard to begin with, let alone taking an overloaded course schedule.
Yeah.
Um I I do want to I want to ask what was your time management? Like how did you manage all those classes, all that work and, still stick out through that?
Well, honestly, I think my time management was a little better then than what it is now for me. And that's crazy to say with everything I had going on at that time. I mean, granted, I still have a lot going on now, not nearly as much as I had then. Honestly, it was college sports that kept me in check. It was playing softball that really kept me in check with my time management because now that I don't have it, I don't know how to manage my time. When you're in college, you go from lift to maybe being able to take a shower to eating and then going to class and then going back to practice, going back to class again, and then you got to make dinner, and then you got to finally shower if you didn't get to shower earlier. And then you're like, all right, I got to sit down, time to grind. And for me, that was like my way of time management, honestly, was having that structure um, through softball.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. A lot of people say that the sport actually keeps them in check because when you don't have that sport,
Mhm.
you'll find other ways to fill your time and it's not always necessarily what you have to do because with
Yeah,
the sport, there's someone else counting on you. Your teammates, your coaches, the fans that come out, they're counting on you to put in that work, but when it's just you and you're not playing a sport, it's you that is counting on you to put in the work. Now your family is too, but
yeah,
you're the one that has to show up. You're the one that has to make sure that you get there. So that's where your time management probably isn't as good as it used to be because you're solely relying on yourself and the work that you have to put in. And
correct.
we've all experienced that. I mean, I did too. When I stopped playing football, I consumed my time with stuff that was not conducive of being a successful individual. And
Right.
I just wasted away days and now I'm trying to make up for him in the best way possible by always grinding, always being, as good as I can be every day.
Yeah.
Um, so it's not really, it happens, especially with a loss of a sport. Did you go through any kind of like sports depression when you were done playing, or were you happy that you were done playing? Because I know people, they have their own opinions on the sport that they play.
It was a little bit of a mix because now I have a little more time to kind of focus on me and making myself better so I can be the best physical therapist that I can possibly be or future physical therapist. But I will admit, I think I'm still going through a little bit of sports depression because I played softball for 17 years. It consumed my life for 17 years, really. And you spend so long preparing for that moment that you get to play in college. Um, and everyone's like, oh, just join a beer league or find a women's adult league. And for me, it's just like, this is kind of like my little beige flag, I guess. It's not the same. It is not the same. It is not
Mm.
that experience that you grinded, that you cried for, that you bled for. It is just not the same experience as college sports. And I'm trying to kind of fill that void of like, oh, I need to find a new sport. I need to find a new sport. I don't really, but I think for me, like, I've been looking at bodybuilding, I've been looking at powerlifting, I've been looking at maybe getting back into ice hockey again, which is crazy to me. Um, yeah, I'm going through it a little bit, I will
Mm.
admit.
You miss Twin Ponds at all?
I do, I really do. And I never thought I would say that. I did enjoy working there, but I do miss Twin Ponds, and I'm thinking about showing up at a public skate again soon and skating around in my little circles.
There you go. Um, yeah, never thought I would be like, wow. Like times were so much simpler back then. It was just like
Uh, yes, it
getting
was.
someone getting someone a Diet Coke or a Coke from the fountain, or just handing them candy. Oh, have a good day.
Yeah.
Now,
Couple parent fights here and there during
yeah,
their 10-year-old son's hockey game. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Why isn't my son playing? Because your son sucks. Oh, great. Now we got a whole fight. Uh, it seemed to happen between the same team parents too. It was never really like against the other team sometimes, but a lot of times it was parent on parent, like just stuff boiling over from game after game after game.
Yeah, it was nuts. I mean, it was kind of comical, but at the same time, you're like, wow, this is like actually happening. Like, I can't believe this is happening right now. Adults and their
Yeah.
10-year-old son who's not going to make it to the NHL.
And you got the 10-year-old son going, guys, stop. Like the 10-year-old sons are like perfectly fine. And it's the parents that are just going after each other.
They're either like that or they learn to be the same way,
Yeah.
which isn't good at all.
Yeah. Yeah. The parents start fighting, the kids start fighting.
Throw
Um,
their helmet down.
I remember just being in the cafe, like making popcorn and just getting called from Terry. Terry was like, get out there now. I was
Like,
like,
yo, I got another.
oh, no, it was funny. It was a good place
Yeah,
to work. It was laid back.
it was.
Looking back on it, pay was not that great for how many
But it was
hours we
still a
spent there.
great first time job for me. And
Oh
was
yeah.
that your first job?
No, I worked at Hershey Park actually.
That's
So that was
right.
my
Yeah.
first job. Yeah.
It is a good like little starter job. It really was great. No complaints.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
was nice. They're very flexible.
Yes.
And tournaments we would get donuts and stuff like that. They would bring in.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Donuts and
I remember
coffee.
that. Good
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're thinking about getting back into hockey though?
I don't know. That for a week I was like, maybe I should, maybe I should. And now I'm like, I don't know. I was never good at it. I enjoyed it, but I was never really good at it. Not that you have to be good at something to do it and enjoy it, but I feel like there are more things that I could do that I would get maybe a little bit more fulfillment out of. I don't know. It's still on my plate somewhere. It's just a matter of sitting down and thinking about it, seeing what's more accessible to me in the time that I have. So
There you go. Yeah, it's a huge investment too, especially well, you have skates that probably fit you, right?
I still have everything,
Oh wow.
except for
Okay.
maybe like I mean I would need a jersey. I don't have a jersey anymore really. Like I think that's in the trash somewhere, but everything else like I kept all my equipment. So
Yeah. I mean, I know Twin Ponds has it's like beer leagues. They have you can choose to play or choose not to play every week, and
yeah.
if you play, you pay. If not, you don't. But you're
Mhm.
on the teams, different levels. I did that for a little bit, but then I was they stopped paying for they used to pay for my beer league if I worked there.
Oh
And while I
yeah.
was working there, they were like, "Oh, well, you don't work here enough to get paid for it." I was just like, "All right, like sounds good. Like I definitely
Oh
work here enough. That's fine though." It
yeah.
was like I
It's
had
a
to
shame.
maintain 30 hours a week. But when I was in college, so I wasn't working 30 hours a week. But when I would come home, I would work like 35, 40 hours a week, like full time. But they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that doesn't count." And
Oh
I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Sounds good. I'm just not gonna
yeah.
play hockey anymore."
That
Um,
sucks.
yeah, here's what it is though.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was a nice first job or a
Yeah.
nice starter job anyway for anyone that wants to, start working.
Yeah.
Some
Of
solid
course.
benefits. Free public skate was a
Oh
solid
yeah.
one.
Me
Yeah.
and my friends. Oh, that was a good time.
Yeah. So, did you ever end up figuring out what quote you wanted to share?
I did actually. I was trying to choose between a couple. It kind of relates to resilience in a way, but the quote that I would like to share is that discomfort isn't dangerous.
Mm, okay.
Yeah,
Where'd you find that one at?
on Instagram. um, I do. I follow a lot of motivational accounts and stuff that make me feel good. And that was something that I had saved that I just was kind of scrolling through and I was like, yep, this is the one.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, what's an experience that you can share about a time where you threw yourself into an uncomfortable situation that you came out alive?
Oh, probably honestly trying out for LVC softball. That
Hmm.
was one of the scariest things I had ever done because in my mind, I'm like, I'm a washed up fifth year. I'm only going to be here for a year. And this team is extremely talented. I don't even know if I'm going to play. It was just a lot of different factors that honestly, it could have pushed me to quit or at least to not try out. Um, but it didn't. And it was really uncomfortable, honestly, trying out for the team and trying to fit in as one of the oldest people on the team and it being my first year on that team. Um, but I made it out alive and I made it out with some really good friends and I made it out with a good outcome of being a regional champion. So,
That's awesome, Sam. I'm glad to hear that. What position did you play in softball?
outfield.
Okay. That's what I played too. Outfield or catcher. I know it's very not really the same thing at all, but they
They're both
switch
fun.
switched me from back and forth in that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um yeah. Well, Sam, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time and energy to be on the show.
Of course. I appreciate you reaching out. This is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final words you want to share?
Could I share another quote?
You can share another quote. Yeah.
So something for me in my past times, I mean, I still deal with a lot of anxiety, um, and just uncertainty of the future. It could be easy for me to be like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get into PT school, so I'm not going to try. But at the end of the day, like I always feel like I kind of find a way to do things, even though if it stressed me out or made me anxious. Um, so my other quote, I guess, is you have always found a way, so this time will be no different. And it's to me, that's about really just trusting the process. I know that's cheesy to say, but it really is true. At the end of the day, if you want to get to where you want to be, you have to trust that you're going to find a way and that things are going to pan out exactly how you need them to.
You're not where you used to be in any aspect of your life. So it's going to continue to be that way as you keep progressing and keep going through life.
Right. I agree.
And you just have to be okay with being uncomfortable, like your first quote as well.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just helping you grow.
Absolutely, Sam. Well, again, thank you for coming on the podcast. I had a great time catching up with you, great time talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for everyone else out there, follow us on Instagram at excelcast_. Follow us on TikTok at excelcast. We are on Spotify and YouTube at excelcast. And as always, stay blessed and excel.
Thank you.
Excelcast.